Hello there. Welcome to a special episode of the This Is Lit podcast, where we will be discussing all things literature. However, today is an exception because we're actually talking about a film. But anyway, let's ignore that inconsistency. Joining me today is the wonderful Prue Baker. How are you going, Prue?
Pretty well. And I would probably argue that film is literature. Wait, no, maybe not. I don't know, but you study film in lit, don't you? So
You do actually, don't you? Yeah.
yeah,
Sian,
could be
what
wrong.
do you think?
Happy to be wrong about that.
Well, I think that, I think a piece such as this, I think it's definitely like a form of literature. So I would definitely say that we are still studying lit. I don't know. This is lit.
Let me actually look up a definition of literature. I probably should have done this before, before the podcast. But
We've got a live Googling. I love it. I love live Googling.
Yeah, so my live Google search has revealed that it is a noun. And it refers to written works, especially those considered of a superior or lasting artistic merit.
All right,
so it does have to
Google?
be written, I believe.
Nah, you know what, Google? You're wrong. I'm just going to go in and change the definition. It's fine.
All right, but if we want to, the play was written. I mean, not play. The film script is a written work. So
this is interesting actually. Wikipedia's got a different one. So Wikipedia, which is again another very reliable source, guys, please use
Definitely.
Wikipedia for all of your research.
Yeah. And then reference it when you use it for your assignments and stuff, just copy straight off it because that'll get you an A+.
Exactly.
Definitely do that when you go to uni. Yeah, do that when you go to uni.
Yeah.
So according to Wikipedia, right, literature broadly is any collection of written or oral work, but is more commonly and narrowly refers to writing, specifically considered to be an art form, especially prose, fiction, drama, and poetry.
Ooh.
Drama.
Still not seeing movies pop up though, so I feel like my first assertion was correct, but yeah.
Look at you using the word assertion. You're so fancy.
Well, we are,
I was super impressed by that, Emily. Well done.
Anyway, so over the school holidays, we decided that it would be a really fun idea to do a bit of a holiday season special, much like a lot of TV shows will do Christmas specials and that sort of thing. We were all like, yep. We're all stuck in lockdown in Melbourne still. We can't really do anything anyway, and VCE exams are pretty close for us in Victoria. So we were like, yep, let's do a special episode of one of the VCE texts, the phenomenal Hitchcock film Rear Window. Yeah, exciting. It turns out though that we actually did end up being a little bit busy doing nothing on the holidays. So it's actually week 2 of term 4. It's no longer officially like a holiday special. But we've already had the graphic made and had our hearts set on calling it a holiday season special. So here we are.
We could just say it's like an early holiday season special.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just
humorous, guys.
Humorous.
Yes. So basically we wanted to give you guys a little something extra to help you revise for the upcoming English exam if this is one of the texts that you need to write on. Or if you're just a fan of Rear Window, hopefully, it'll still be fun to listen to. But we're basically going to do a bit of an overview where we discuss some of the key questions based around context, themes, film techniques, symbolism, and that sort of stuff. So Prue and Sian, do you have anything to add before we get stuck into our questions?
Well, I might just cut in here. Did we want to have a quick rundown of a summary of Rear Window before we get into it? I don't mind. I've got one in front of me.
Is this also just going to be ripped from Google? Or?
This is a quick Google that I've done.
Actually, no, that makes perfect sense. Let's do a little plot summary just for anyone that has only watched the movie once or doesn't remember it. Yeah.
So old mate Google has popped up with a very very succinct summary, and it just says the film is a story of a recuperating news photographer who believes he has witnessed a murder. Confined to a wheelchair after an accident, he spends his time watching the occupants of a neighbouring apartment block through a telephoto lens. I've never heard it called that. Pretty much binoculars. No, never. Binoculars and a camera lens. And becomes convinced that a murder has taken place, and he gets really obsessed over it.
What was that first word? Recuperating.
Yeah, the
Recuperating.
story of a recuperating news photographer.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Don't mind that.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that one, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Guys,
use
use
that.
that one in your intros.
Yes,
Yeah.
No one will know
recuperating.
it's from Google.
Yeah, because we don't.
No.
Another one that's popped up as well, like on Rotten Tomatoes, and this one's like easy, is professional photographer or Jeffries, LB Jeffries, is stuck in his apartment recuperating. Oh, there's that word again. From a broken leg. Out of boredom, he begins to spy on his neighbours and comes across a shocking revelation.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
So much suspense.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, yeah, hopefully you're already pretty familiar with the movie itself. We're going to talk a little bit about context to start with. So my question to you guys is, how is the social context of McCarthyism reflected in Rear Window?
Crouton.
All right, I'll take it. I'll start the show then, shall I?
Yeah, you start the
Okay.
show. You're the opener.
Show
Go,
starter.
go, go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. All right. Okay. So I wrote this note so long ago, so hopefully I can kind of seem fluent when I talk about this.
Yeah.
But
it's good that you just told everybody
McCarthyism-
that too.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm being upfront and being honest, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, should we talk about like what McCarthyism is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah, I feel like this
Yeah.
is one of the ones that like my students kind of like struggle to understand, just because
Like,
I think it relies on like a bit of like historical knowledge, I suppose,
Historical
which
knowledge,
we don't
yeah.
all have. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
history
and-
kids were good with it, but the like the history and English, but then the students that were just studying English had a little bit of a bit of a hard time to grasp it. But yeah, sorry, go Prue.
Well, I'll try and tackle it.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, McCarthyism is this era in American history, post-war, post-World War II era, where there's like the fear of communism was rife throughout society. It's named after, I can't even remember, but some political figure,
Senator
Is it-
McCarthy.
Senator
Yeah.
McCarthy. There you go.
Yes.
So basically, the fear of communism is rife, as I said, and the government encouraged people to kind of, for want of a better phrase, spy on their neighbours to make sure that they're not secret communists. And there were lots of different silly like definitions or like silly little things that would say like how communists would act. But basically, they were supposed to spy on their neighbors or make sure that no one was a secret communist in order to protect, the well-being of society. Is that correct? So,
Yes,
but basically,
I would say so, yeah.
it created this kind of disconnect between people because obviously there was, lots of distrust within society. People became paranoid of each other, and we see this a lot in Rear Window. So Hitchcock uses this post-war McCarthyism era and we see it reflected in just this like small little apartment complex where Jeffries lives. And I guess now we'll talk about how. Or is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think you covered it really well.
Yeah, very succinct.
Thank you. All right. Well, how is the social context of McCarthyism reflected in Rear Window? Jeffries is monitoring his apartment complex with either his binoculars or his camera. So he's basically looking out his window, looking into each of his neighbors' apartments. He seems like a natural observer. He does it for fun, but he also does it professionally as well. So we'll see in his personal life when he's recuperating, but we also see him kind of observe people in his professional life. We also see it. I'm sorry, I'm going through my notes, and this is really bad. The obsession that he can't, like, I guess the paranoia that he experiences, or the paranoia of like that he kind of immediately jumps to this conclusion, this far-fetched conclusion that Thorwald killed his wife, which I think is reminiscent of McCarthyism. The fact that that's reflecting that paranoia that people felt that people were breaking the law, and there's this distrust between people, between neighbors, disconnect, and we see all the neighbors in Jeffrey's apartment don't get along or don't have much to do with each other. Definitely no kind of positive relationships.
Yeah, very true.
Very true. Yeah. So, and we have that, that quote that I think everyone can kind of remember, with the woman saying, "No one knows how to be a neighbour anymore." I think that kind of epitomizes McCarthyism in a sense. We also see, I had it in my head and now I've lost it. It's too
Not
late
good
at
enough.
night. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess with that, like, we see this, these neighbors don't interact so much that they wouldn't even kind of know if Thorwald's wife did get murdered, without Jeff kind of observing it and watching it, no one would notice that she was missing.
Yep,
Yeah,
and there's
and
that quote about how how brazen it was, like in full view of 50 windows or something like that, I think is a quote.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, he wouldn't commit murder with his window open, but seemingly nobody's looking in or nobody's connecting with each other. So there's this huge disconnect within society, even though they live so close together. Like their apartments are all squished together. They're all like in each other's, like on top of each other, but not actually interacting with each other at all.
Unless they're like obviously forced to at some points, but yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I don't. I think you've gone into a lot of depth with that one. I've got nothing.
Yeah, definitely. How dare you? I pretty much have the very similar thoughts. Obviously, through Jeffrey's surveillance, he has obviously a very limited perspective, and I know and with McCarthyism and with the feeling of surveillance and the mood of suspicion and distrust and blah blah blah. It's really interesting because it's like Hitchcock very masterfully gets into our heads, with the fact that Jeffries does have a limited perspective, and he kind of obviously shows to us that, oh yes, Jeffries has a limited perspective, and yes, we're seeing everything from his point of view or his camera lens and blah blah blah. I think that's obviously a bigger suggestion about McCarthyism as well, because obviously McCarthyism, that's based on, as Prue said, the historical context of basically judging somebody or telling on somebody or reporting somebody to the American government based on no real evidence. As long as you suspect them of wrongdoing, then that's enough evidence for the government. Does that make sense? And so it's really interesting that Hitchcock is also making that, I didn't realize this until much later, that I feel like Hitchcock is making a suggestion about, McCarthyism and how it's viewed and reflected in Rear Window, through the fact that it's done in a very limited way, and that's only through Jeffries. We don't get anybody else's point of view as well, and I found that really interesting.
Yeah, he forces us to jump to conclusions as well.
Yes,
so
yes.
As we become complicit in it as well, so then we only get this dribs and drabs of information with Jeffries. But we are forced to jump to this conclusion that Thorwald definitely killed his wife.
Yes.
So then, we take the mind of somebody in that era and being paranoid and being suspicious of our neighbours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
definitely.
So I definitely found that. Ooh, sorry, what did you say?
No, you go. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, and I just really found that, when I really thought about, the camera lens and the limited perspective and the, all avenues of McCarthyism, I really found that Hitchcock was definitely trying to, persuade his audience into really thinking deeper into, the McCarthy era and how that obviously not only affects those around us, it also affects those looking at what's happening and also those doing the surveillance as well. There's just so many avenues that this can go down, and it's very interesting when you really step back and think about this film. It's a very I believe it's a very good choice for a year 12 text, because there's so much you can go into.
There's so much there. We were talking today about something about the would it be immoral even if we found out that this man didn't commit a crime. So then we had to discuss whether, this is immoral, reaching or invading someone's privacy, even if we make sure that nobody's done anything wrong.
Yes.
So is it justifiable both ways, or is it just immoral?
Oh,
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting.
I think all
we
this,
could go on.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think all of this flows really well into our next question, which is, how did Hitchcock make you reflect on your own voyeuristic tendencies?
All right, Em, you have a go this time.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. I thought I got out of talking too much. So
You're like, I'm just the host, so I don't have to
Yep.
say much.
I've got nothing to add. No, I think, I don't know. I actually find this a really enjoyable movie. And one of the things I like about it is that we're watching a movie about people watching people. Like, I think it just kind of highlights the way in which wanting to watch other people's lives unfold is something that's actually just a really natural human tendency.
Yeah.
Even watching movies, watching TV shows,
Reality TV.
all that sort of stuff. It's, even though it's not as it doesn't seem as full on as Jeff using his binoculars and camera lens to spy on his neighbours out
What are
through
you
his window.
talking about? That's totally keeping up with the Kardashians.
Well, as my year 12 said, they have their windows open and their blinds open. So, they're putting their lives on display for him. So who's at fault?
Interesting perspective. I don't know. So even though, it doesn't seem, I don't look at myself and be like, yeah, I'm like Jeff because I too like to spy on people. I think, that thinking about it, I'm not a creep like that or anything. But if I'm out, do you guys ever people watch?
People watch, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. As a drama
100%.
teacher, as a drama teacher, absolutely, I people watch. Totally,
Yeah.
I tell my kids to people watch to get their mannerisms, to get their gestures, and that's super creepy. But I don't care. Sorry, keep going.
I was just gonna say, that in itself, a form of voyeurism. Same as, if you are people watching, how often do you then kind of, assign them a narrative or make some certain assumptions, which isn't necessarily okay, but it's something I think that just majority of people do, whether we like to admit it or not. We all kind of do engage in voyeurism, to varying degrees, or I suppose you could say. But I think Hitchcock has really tried to make it seem like something that is natural that we do all partake in, and part of that is, as we've already kind of talked about, is how he has made us share Jeff's perspective throughout the whole movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just think it's really. I'm just going to jump in here. I just think it's really interesting because it made me reflect on obviously my own voyeuristic tendencies, and I think we're all very quick to be I'm not like this and I'm not like that, but yes, I do people watch and blah blah blah, and yes, it's a natural thing. But it's so interesting because I think that Hitchcock is saying something bigger than that to all of us, and I think the point that I'm trying to make here is that I think that it kind of made me reflect on my own voyeuristic tendencies and how I people watch. It's and this is a really roundabout point, and I'm sorry this is going to take ages, but I think it's because I think that we treat others as objects of our subjectivity. They're see?
Love that.
They're for us, but we're not for them.
Just like Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the
so deep.
Yeah. You're all welcome. No. No. And so I was thinking about this because I was like, yes, absolutely. Because I live in an apartment block, if I'm out on my balcony and I see somebody running past or walking past, you people watch. You watch what they're doing. They are subjects of your they are objects of your subjectivity. You're watching them. You're watching them go past. And then I just think it's really interesting as well because and I just want to present this to you guys as well. When we first get into the film, do you guys remember the very first thing that happens in the movie? What's the very first thing that we see?
The blinds. Is that
Yes. So my question to you, and this is really, really, really far-fetched, and I am totally aware of that. We see the curtains rising, yeah? So my question to you is, how are the blinds going up?
Oh, who's doing it?
Who's doing it, yeah? So think about So I'm just...
Jeff can't.
Jeff
Yeah.
can't do it. So who's doing it?
I feel like it's just like them welcoming us to the show.
Hmm.
You reckon?
Who do you think is doing it?
Okay, so I think personally,
Hitchcock.
and like, I think it's Hitchcock. Okay, and I've got a couple of points. So I think it's a very innocent, very innocent thing. Oh yes, it's curtains rising at the show, and oh yes, we're going to see this, and like it's obviously, but that's obviously not possible for a normal blind to just rise up on its own. It's the first sort of convention being introduced to us as the convention of theatre. Which is, I know, I'm sorry, I'm getting all drama teacher on you. Suggesting again that we are not just like present at these events that are being shown to us, or we're not just Jeffries, is that somebody is showing us this, and that person is Hitchcock. And that is the very first thing that I thought about, because I was like, no, there has to be something more than that. This whole showing of like the curtains rising has a point. Sometimes, that point is to make us laugh or make us, cry or whatever. But at some point, directors, film directors, stage directors, that whole point is to illuminate something about, the human existence or the human condition. And my students know that I talk about the human condition a lot, because the human condition is, to watch other people, to look at other people. And I think like a director, especially when you think about a film director, wants us to like look inside it, like ourselves, and then really think about, they're for us, but we're not for them. We're all for show. And that's what I got from it. So, mic drop.
Done.
No?
I'm going to end the recording now, because that was great.
No.
That's all you need, guys.
But does that make sense though? Or
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. I was like, I don't know what I'm saying.
Does he does he want us to reflect on that and reflect on the hypocritical nature of that, and how then like the whole thing is immoral and that we shouldn't really be doing it, even though it's seemingly natural to us, and we
absolutely
it's a natural curiosity to kind of know how people live, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I think anyway. Like Hitchcock from the get-go is showing us something. This is something that's, I don't know. That's just what I got from it. He's showing us this magical, amazing, a very old film that, or at the time, he was like, oh, look at my new amazing film that's uses a dolly shot or a crane shot or whatever it is. And I don't know, I just think that, I don't know, he's a genius. I just think he's a bloody genius. And I think, there's a reason why we're still studying his films in 2020. And it's because we can, just from one thing of like talking about these blinds going up, like we can probably get a whole bloody essay out of that.
Legit though. It's so well thought out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's so good. Anyway, I'll stop talking. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. No, that was good. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, I have nothing to add, because I feel like I'm just going to sound really dumb.
No.
Whatever you say. Actually, no, I've already spoken about this one, so yeah, I'm done. I've done my part.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on then. Gonna have a bit of a chat about some film techniques now. I don't know, for our students at our school, we refer to like CAMELS as an acronym to understand or to remember different film techniques, so that we've got like camera shots, angles, mise en scene, editing, lighting, and sound. So
Nice.
we're going to talk about camera shots and angles. So these are arguably the most important filmic techniques that Hitchcock uses. How are they used to convey Hitchcock's overall message in Rear Window?
Go, guys, go.
I feel like I'm on a Teams call or something. Everyone.
I just want to. Have you guys ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yes,
like when he calls us like Bueller. That's it.
Yeah. Good movie.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I feel like we've already touched on it for camera shots and angles, but obviously we've discussed, the fact that Jeffries has a very limited point of view, and that point of view shot does show that his very limited perspective, and that's done, I believe, and I think you guys agree, like, it's done in a very purposeful way, like meaningful way. Like Hitchcock has made us become Jeffries at some points in the film, and that is again to obviously add on to Prue's point before about how Jeffries voyeuristic tendencies, like we're all sort of natural to that, and we all kind of do that, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought like a similar thing, and also to do with like the angles used as well. So like the fact that Hitchcock uses low angles when showing Jeff, it kind of like really highlights how he holds power in his gaze on the neighbours. So even though he is sitting around in his pajamas, he is trapped in his apartment in a wheelchair and all that sort of stuff, he still has the power of this gaze on his neighbours.
Yeah. I've got that as well. Like he's above most of the characters and he's looking down on them, showing his control or dominance. And you know, he's got the knowledge of everything that's going on in the apartment complex. So he has the power, he has the dominance in this situation. And I've also got here, could also represent his inflated ego.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, all of this and him being on a high angle, this was actually pointed out by a student of mine last year. It kind of was like, oh, yeah, but it's just because he's on one of the top floors of the apartment block. That's why he's sitting down and everything.
No.
But, yeah, obviously being English teachers, I think, obviously we like to read into these things. And I feel like with Hitchcock being Hitchcock, most of his decisions within his movies are pretty deliberate.
Yeah, he would have made Jeff live on the top floor for a reason. Like, they're not going to see much on the bottom floor. It's not going to inspire any kind of curiosity. So, Jeff's on the top floor. Yeah, he's always going to be on the top floor. Hitchcock would always make him be on the top floor. So, it's always purposeful. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't actually, it's not even on the very top floor, is he?
Like,
because he looks up
middle.
At the...
in the middle.
Towards the upper...
Corrected.
Yeah. That's okay. I think I started that.
I love it when kids are like, oh, but miss, no, it's like this. I'm like, no, little Johnny, it's actually not. Just listen to me. Like,
listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So what about sound, guys? So obviously something else that's really, really important in the film that, again, Hitchcock is really purposeful with is his use of sound. So how has Hitchcock used music to set the scene for Lisa and Jeff's relationship?
I love that the hint you gave, Sian, is like, look, literally the answer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I have to find something more, like another insight.
I thought that was a good hint.
It is a good hint. It is a good hint.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say my hint, just so I get in first, so I can do some talking. So I wrote, hint, think about all the times where the composer was stuck with his work. And at the end, he isn't. Symbolic, huh? Opposing reactions to the music as well. Jeff hates it, Lisa loves it. So, yeah, I just found that very interesting. When, you know, Lisa and Jeffries was, you know, when they were coming to blows, and then they were having issues with their relationship, and they'd fight and they'd argue about, you know, different parts of their history and different parts of their life periods that they're in. This was always sort of reciprocated and then further symbolized in the musicians or the composer's work, you know, across the courtyard. And I found that so interesting when I just had a look at this, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. He's always stuck. And then obviously at the end, I think he throws a party or something, guys. Does he throw a party? Yeah.
I don't know, towards the end, he's with Miss Lonely. So his music also attracts Miss Lonelyhearts. But he does throw a party.
I think that's a bit earlier.
Oh, okay, my bad. Anyway, and then, you know, towards the end, I remember seeing this because obviously I've watched this movie 1,000 times. And he plays, I think, somebody comes over and he plays the record that he's made. And he's like, oh, look at this, I did it. And that was at the end, that's at the end sequences as well. So kind of, again, further symbolizing like, oh, everything is okay. Like, you know, we've all gotten there in the end. And then obviously we pan over to Lisa and Jeffries, and, you know, they're all seemingly happy. We infer that they're happy because Lisa's got a big smile on her face, and so does Jeffries, I think.
Happy enough, I think.
Yeah, and I think too, did you guys realise that the song itself is actually called Lisa's theme as well?
I don't know if I realised that, but I was told.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so like, you know, even
I think that was in your PowerPoint, Em.
Oh, yeah, probably. It's a pretty good PowerPoint.
God.
No, but yes. So, like, yeah, I think it's definitely, like, even, like, I didn't even realize this, like, the first couple times I watched it, but, like, even the lyrics, like, I think it says, like, literally says Lisa during the sung part of that song, too.
Oh
which
my
is
God,
cool.
it does.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't even
Yep.
realize.
So yeah, I think it
Wow.
definitely symbolizes like her romantic ideals, and then also the development of the relationship with Jeff. And just on another point, like we spoke about the isolation as part of like the social context and everything, and how like they're in this community but they're also disconnected. I think it's also worth just quickly mentioning that like it is this song and the sound in general used within Rear Window that actually connects the lives of all of the neighbours. So yep, they don't have any real interest in each other. They don't pay any attention to each other. But it's through that music and I guess the sounds in general that they all kind of hear that kind of waft in and out of their apartments. That they are still all kind of like linked. Yeah. So I think that's something really cool.
I never realized that.
That was also in your
Well,
PowerPoint.
that was in the PowerPoint, so yeah,
Aw.
you clearly didn't.
Leave me
Clearly didn't look at it,
alone.
Sean.
Stop picking on me.
We haven't yet, and I feel like you deserve that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Pay attention, Sean. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm the worst.
Anyway, moving
Rude.
on.
Yes, please move on.
So talking about another film technique now, we're going to talk a little bit about lighting. So how has lighting been used by Hitchcock to build suspense in the film?
This one's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
guess
feel
like
like
kind of go. You, someone else go, because I have
Yeah,
zero
alright.
notes, and I'm just going to speak off the top of my head.
I was just going to be like low-key lighting. So obviously,
Yeah, cool. Great work, guys. You get 60 out of 60 on your sack.
I think he's utilized a lot of low-key lighting, particularly when we're looking at Thorwald's apartment. It's used to kind of portray Thorwald as an evil guy. The scene that always kind of like just sticks in my mind of Thorwald is that one where like he's sitting in the dark in the apartment and we can only see the glow of the cigarette that he's smoking.
Yeah.
It's
That's
when
so
everyone
ominous.
else
creepy.
like everyone else has gone to see like what the lady screamed about, like with her dog dying during that scene. And then they look across and the apartment's fully dark. They just see this like glow, like of kind of like a monster that's like in the dark or whatever.
Very
And
ominous.
And then there's a similar still as well, which comes to mind of him like when he breaks into Jeff's apartment as well, and like it's low key lighting again, and the only like the light is reflecting on like
from
I
his
think
glasses?
his glasses, which again
Yeah,
looks like creepy like monster eyes, like something you'd expect to see in like a horror movie. Yeah.
It is a horror movie, though, yeah?
I think it's
a thriller. It's a thriller.
I think it's a thriller. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Hold on, do you want me to check Google? I'll check Google.
Yeah, we'll do another. How many live Googles are we going to do this?
Rear Window genre. It is a mystery thriller film.
All right, not a horror. It's a
Not a
bit
horror.
scary sometimes, though.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong, always wrong. Happy to be wrong. No, and I think, like, I guess it does kind of get progressively darker as we kind of start to believe that Thorwald is the murderer, and he has like done this terrible thing to his dead wife.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because it kind of like, I guess the scary bit happens, at night. He comes over at night, and he breaks into the apartment at night. And then when he's in Jeff's apartment, it's basically like dark, except for when Jeff tries to blind him with the light, and it's like really sharp and like, confronting. But we only get these like glimpses as well of like, Thorwald coming closer to Jeff, and so we just get this like little bits of information when Jeff is using his flashlight. So that's kind of scary as well, because we're all scared of things that we don't know about.
Yeah.
Fear of the unknown. Yes, love it.
Fear of the unknown. We know he's coming, but we don't know where he is. So it's scary.
So smart. Why so smart?
Something else that I find interesting about like the use of lighting, which isn't specific to suspense, but just like I don't know, I like it. I find it interesting. is I really like the way that, so like with all the apartment windows, like it's obviously all dark surrounding them, and then the light comes from within, and it literally looks like little miniature like TV screens.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, is he kind of like, the camera often like pans across the courtyard as he kind of like moves from like one window or one screen to the next, and it's kind of as if he's like channel surfing in a way, because he's like looking across, like tuning in and out of like the different lives, I suppose, that are kind of unfolding in front of him.
That's so smart. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think another interesting thing, and we're going, this isn't about suspense, but it is about lighting, so it's kind of relevant, is when we get introduced to Lisa, Hitchcock, I think, plays on that, I'm going to say horror, even though it's wrong, that horror trope or style when Jeff opens his eyes and Lisa is like right there, and or like I think there's something like darkness.
The shadows,
The shadow, of her, and like, it feels like then it's probably going to be like something scary or something threatening. But it's actually this beautiful woman, and then she has to go around and turn all the lights on in the apartment.
But then further to that, then maybe, sorry for interjecting here, but maybe, you know, yes, it's Lisa, and you said she was kind of like in the shadows or in the darkness, and then she sort of comes into the light.
She comes out, and then she's like this huge face on the screen, and
But maybe because Jeffries is pretty much afraid of marriage.
Totally. That's why.
Maybe that's why they've done it. Yeah. Maybe that's 100%. Why, because it's like,
that's what he fears. That's his biggest fear at the moment is commitment to Lisa.
And saying
but what we as the audience think, oh, there's something threatening and there's something terrible, like terrifying, but it turns out to just be Lisa.
And that's also foreshadowed with how there's the first time we actually see Lisa is in that photo that he has framed, where he has a negative framed of her.
Yeah.
In the opening sequence, which is again him being like, oh, this, like a very little way of being like, yep, she is negative. Do not like Lisa. Like, yep. Just going to string her along.
Yeah, just going to string her along. This very beautiful and successful woman. But lol, don't want her. Lol.
Nah. She's too perfect. How could I cope?
Yeah, literally. How could his masculinity cope? You know, having such a successful woman. Anyway, I digress. I love that point, Prue. I love that point. Sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to move us along, so keep going. No.
Move us along.
I was just going to say that works in perfectly with our character question, which we're going to move to. So Jeff gives many of his neighbours monikers that can be seen as sexist and condescending. So things like Miss Torso, Miss Lonelyhearts, and so on. What does this convey about Jeff as a character, and also the context of the 1950s?
Love it. Can I just say that I love the word moniker for like a nickname? Like, I love it. I'm like, kids use it all the time.
Oh, we've discussed this, haven't we, Sean?
Have we?
Yeah, we have. That's
sneaky teaching.
Oh, yes, because I'm a sneaky teacher. I'm a secret teacher. Yes. So I suppose I don't know. What does this convey about Jeff as a character? Yeah, true. Damn it. No, we have to restart the episode. Obviously, you know, Jeff as a character, I think I don't like Jeffries, to be honest. Like, yeah, he tries to do a good thing, but also he's deeply flawed as a man. So I think, you know, obviously, you know, the context of the time about, you know, Jeffries giving, you know, these monikers or these nicknames, you know, Miss Torso, Miss Lonelyhearts, all of that sort of stuff. It just conveys to me that he, you know, obviously is quite sexist and doesn't really think much of women. Like, in my opinion, please stop me if I am wrong. Because, you know, he gives them these names that are obviously quite condescending, and doesn't see past, you know, oh, she's got a really nice body, I'm going to call her Miss Torso. Oh, yep, and that's all she's good for. Miss Lonelyhearts. Oh, well, she obviously, you know, as we find out through the film, she is quite lonely. But like, there's no, for me especially, I infer that he's called Miss Lonelyhearts because she is a single woman, and that is all that she will amount to, and that is her name now. So I will not even bother to learn her name as a fellow apartment block neighbour, and I will just call her Miss Lonelyhearts because that's all that she will amount to. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I kind of got from this question. I think I wrote this one. And obviously, the context of the 1950s. The women were there just to cook and clean and keep a perfect house and serve their husbands and smile and wave, and that was it. And again, this links into that whole lighting thing that Prue said about Lisa. Like she absolutely scares the living bejesus out of Jeffries, because she's beautiful, but yes, she's also a very successful and independent woman, and that would probably scare a man like Jeffries because of all the things that she's achieved. And I think that
emasculates him.
Yeah, absolutely. And she goes against, those gender roles of the times of 1950s. And I believe also that Alfred Hitchcock was also showing the audience, like, women are actually more capable of what we give them credit for. Like, it's so interesting about like what he says about women in the 1950s as well. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just, I just find it interesting.
More capable and more complex as well. As I think at first we see this one-dimensional aspect of these characters like Miss Lonelyhearts and Miss Torso, and like we focus on those attributes, whether it's Miss Lonelyhearts because she's not married and she's single, or it's Miss Torso and she's the one that dances around and she's got a good body.
Yeah.
But as the film progresses and through Lisa's perspective, that one-dimensional like view changes. And we get a more complex view of these women and their struggles and their life. So Miss Torso turns out to be, someone who is married, or she does have a partner who's, someone who's average.
He was, I think he was away at the army or something.
Yeah, he was away in the army, and she loves him. And Lisa, and then Lisa provides the commentary on her as well, saying, she's doing the hardest job of all, juggling wolves, the wolves being men. Then what women have to actually do to survive in this world.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion in class being like, well, what is she actually doing to like surviving, and like is she is she earning money, or is she getting money from these men or something like that? And it's like, but it's the lengths, or it's like the struggles that women go through to survive in like a male dominated world, especially in the 1950s where the men did have all the power.
Yeah.
So Jeff totally is. Yeah, he does have that. It reflects that sexism prevalent in the 1950s with his superficial traits that he observes. Like he applies the labels that he applies to his neighbours, the women, and yet he gives his male neighbour, the musician, like that's his moniker. So that's his. Because career, his profession.
His profession. And it's just so interesting. Like, I don't know, when I continuously watch this film, like, this is not a flattering movie about men. A man kills his wife. Like, like a poor, like a man kills his wife. Jeffries, can be seen to be, quite, for lack of a better, like, kind of like perverted and disgusting and blah, 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 because like, you can sort of read into that. Even more, the Miss Lonelyhearts is assaulted, and then obviously Jeffries is, and like we said before, Jeffries is unable to have a real adult relationship with a real adult woman unless she does everything that he tells her to do, and lives the life that he wants her to live, and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's very interesting that Hitchcock has created this film, because this is not, and again, this is a film made by a man.
And it's a movie from the 1950s as well, which is also like
so forward thinking, forward thinking.
So it's not as if this is looking back on history, and it's not providing a commentary like 30 years down the track where people have been like, oh yeah, no, that was pretty awful, the fact that we expected that. Like, this was literally 1954. In the heart of it, he was already kind of portraying these things. So I think that's really cool.
And like time and time again, I think that's why we are obviously studying this film. But it's so interesting. So interesting.
There was something I read on the internet ages ago, which is why I can't remember now. But it was something along the lines of, so I'm going to ruin it, but it's somewhere, it exists somewhere on the internet, where before, so you know how Thorwald chops up his wife and spreads his wife's body around the city, and that's how he disposes of it.
Delicious. Yes, delicious. Love that.
Perfect.
Perfect. What a great
Yeah.
idea.
But there's like elements of that, like that's happening to like the other women, like metaphorically, obviously, not physically, not literally, like it happened to Mrs. Thorwald, but elements of like how women are kind of already dismembered, like the fact, and I can only think of one example where they used many, the fact that, you know, Jeff calls Miss Torso, so just like it's just like part of her body.
Yeah, and even like the way her body's like framed, where like we can only see
That's
like
it, yeah,
certain parts of her
yeah.
bodies at once. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
that's meant to like
she's
mimic. Yeah. Sorry.
mimic what happens to Mrs. Thorwald. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was an interesting thing that
So
is somewhat
interesting.
thought of, and it's out there, but I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
Wow. I am dead. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. What about you, Em? What did you think?
Pretty much everything you guys said. So I was going to move along to our next question because it was quite, it all is, quite closely linked to what we've just been chatting about. But yeah, what do you think Hitchcock was actually trying to convey about marriage and gender roles during the 1950s? So for me, in terms of like gender roles, I think he was really seeking to show the audience that like men and women can share both masculine and feminine traits. And that they shouldn't be stereotyped. So something that like I really love looking at is how like, you know, there is that binary of like, oh well, that's a masculine trait. Being a risk taker is masculine, being active and dominant and that sort of stuff for me is a more masculine trait. Like I really love looking at the characters and kind of trying to look at like what traits they have, and it's really interesting to see that they actually pretty much all of them have a mix of traits that you would consider either like both feminine and masculine. So like if we look at Lisa, for instance, so obviously, you know, on a superficial level, very feminine, like the way she dresses, she's always in like beautiful dresses, heels. She works in fashion, is both a magazine editor and a model as well. But then she does actually also have all of these masculine traits, by being the active one in the relationship. So, you know, obviously Jeff's in his wheelchair. He can't actually be the one that like holds our gaze and moves around the room, that sort of stuff. It's always Lisa. But then on the flip side of that, she's also fulfilling a feminine role in being the caretaker of Jeff in some cases. Moving back to masculine, like she demonstrates these risk-taking behaviors by breaking into Thorwald's apartment. She uses logic when it comes to like the handbag and jewelry being left behind by Mrs. Thorwald, which like Doyle palms off as like or feminine intuition or whatever. But yeah, like if you actually stop and like break down each character, it's really, really interesting to see that all of them kind of share traits from both binaries. And yes, so I think one of his like big kind of goals or messages that he wanted to convey is that traditional gender roles shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
She's very forward thinking.
Yeah,
she's
again, so
really
forward thinking.
Confident in her sexuality as well, which is, you know, stereotypically a masculine trait. You know, she's the one that kind of always initiates things with Jeff. She's the one staying over, and you know, and basically she's the one that all this, you know, wants to be sexual with Jeff, but Jeff is the one that he's obsessed with what's happening in the neighbours. So she in that way has more power. Like she is confident in what she's doing and has that kind of power in that relationship, which is probably more a stereotypical masculine trait. And the stereotypical feminine thing would be to you know, be innocent and that kind of stuff, which Lisa is not, and she's unashamedly not that.
So interesting. I totally obviously agree with you guys about the gender roles. I love that point about, you know, masculine traits and feminine traits and stuff like that. I agree. Like, I think it's quite interesting, you know, again, just sorry to repeat my point, but it's also applicable to this question, is that obviously, you know, this is not, you know, a flattering film about men. Again, like, you know, a man kills his wife, all that sort of stuff. Jeff, I just always come back to the fact that Jeff is seemingly unable to have an adult relationship with this beautiful, beautiful woman. And he's always like, oh no, you should do what I say, and you do this and you do that, and yada yada yada. And obviously that's extremely problematic. And yeah, that's all I really actually had for that sort of question. I apologize, guys. I don't have anything more interesting.
Disappointing. But anyway,
I think in terms of marriage, I don't think the movie presents a very positive view on marriage, but perhaps a positive view on relationships and human connection. So, the people who are happy at the beginning, the newlyweds, end up quite unhappy, and they're bickering and nagging, fighting. But the people at the end, Miss Lonelyhearts and the musician form a connection, and in that way we get this kind of lovely Hollywood ending, like the people end up together, or like Lisa and Jeff somehow have figured it out and they end up together. But we don't see anything to do with marriage. But we see perhaps a closer connection and closer bond between the two, a mutual recognition of each other and acceptance. Thoughts?
I love that. Yeah. Love it. So good.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, could be wrong here. I feel like potentially he could have, like, Hitchcock could have been trying to kind of show that, like, because again, thinking this actually is from the 1950s, he could have been trying to show that, like, marriage can produce like undesirable consequences, I suppose, that like it's not actually going to be the be all and end all. It's not going to be the best thing that is going to happen in your life. You're not going to have like won at life by getting married, that sort of thing. It's
not something to strive for.
That it can be something that isn't good. It can result in you getting murdered.
Or it's not
extreme, but
like it's like being married is not the pinnacle of happiness. Like because you can see how some of the marriages in the movie end up. So we see unhappiness in some marriages. So I guess it's not the end of of your happiness journey. Like marriage isn't going to, as Em said, the be all and end all of the happiness, and life's going to be in after you're married. Sorry.
And I guess that's also reflected in Miss Lonelyhearts. It's like at the end she is happy because she's developed a connection with the musician. It's not that she's like married to him, doesn't even show that like it's a romantic relationship necessarily. It just shows a friendship. So
didn't even think of that. You guys are so smart.
Dang.
We know.
Who are you?
All right. I remembered. So, if you are a long-time fan of the program, you will be aware that we usually do like a bit of a game as our end segment. I had forgotten. Well, we didn't have one planned, and I had an idea that I forgot over the last couple of weeks. But I've remembered what it is, so I'm going to be putting Sian and Prue on the spot here. But
okay,
fine.
Have we not done the last question?
Well, that is going to be the game. So
okay, because I was like, I wanted to say something. Oh my god.
Well, hopefully you still can.
Yeah. Okay, love it.
All right. So basically, the game we're going to play, guys, is I'm going to name a symbol from the film, and you are going to buzz in using your name.
Yeah.
And you need to explain what it is symbolic of to earn a point.
Love it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We can edit this out and just, do the question if you want. But
No, it's fine.
No.
All right.
Nah, I love it. Love it. Hit me.
Alrighty. Yeah. Symbol number 1 is Jeff's camera lens.
Do I have to say my name?
Sian buzzed in first.
Excellent. Okay. Jeff's, you're welcome, Prue.
I don't want to say this one anyway.
Why?
Emily knows. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah.
I hate you all. Okay, so obviously there's 2 readings that you can get into this. I'm obviously only going to talk about
just
one.
Remember they're school-age children.
Yes, this is school-age children I'm going to work with.
They are like 18-year-old children or 17, but okay.
Okay. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I've always taught the camera as or like the camera lens, whatever you want to say, is basically I think it's representative of three things. Obviously, the first thing is the camera is representative of Jeffrey's and like his point of view and like what he is obviously looking at and feeling. I think it also it's I think doing some further reading into it, the length of the camera lens as well, when we think about that, I think is also symbolic of the emotional Prue, are you right? Are you just gonna giggle all the way through this? I'll go on mute. Yeah, you better. Is obviously symbolic of the like the distance or like the emotional distance that he puts between himself and Lisa. So again, sort of feeding.
I like that.
Yes, girl. So feeding into that, you know, the fact that you know, Prue's point about, you know, the lighting and, you know, Lisa's shown like a horror film and, you know, he's scared, he's almost afraid of Lisa and stuff like that. So yeah, that emotional distance. And then obviously when we think of, like, very literally, it's also symbolic of like the viewer and what they're looking at as well, because obviously we do look through the lens at some points in the film. So it enables sort of our voyeuristic tendencies.
Very solid answer, Sean. I was looking, you know, or like, if I'd answered this one, I would have just been like, voyeurism.
Yeah, same.
So
Okay,
I
well,
feel like
I don't do things by halves, so
I don't know. Part of me wants to give you like a bonus point for giving.
Can I get double points or even triple, because I said there was 3 symbols.
You did, but then that'll really throw out the scoring for the rest of the round. So we'll leave it at 1.
Oh man!
Good job though.
Thanks.
Again, have my praise, and that's worth more than points.
I need your approval. Yes.
But Emily, do you want to go through the secret 4th answer?
Yeah, Emily. Yeah,
me.
Yeah.
I'll just touch on it really briefly. It's so another reading of the the camera lens is that it is symbolic of, well, it's like a phallic symbol, and it's like symbolic of like it's symbolic of Jeff's, like, you know, fragile masculinity and that sort of thing, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Now it's really awkward.
Moving
on. Okay. Symbol number 2. Don't forget to buzz in using your name.
Yeah, Prue.
Symbol number 2 is the wedding ring. A really tough one, guys.
Prue.
Damn it. I did not just swear.
Symbolizes marriage. Shock. I know you weren't expecting that.
but also, yeah.
Also, like Lisa's want to get married. So when she puts it on, when she shows Jeff that, you know, she finds the wedding ring in Mrs. Thor's bag, she puts it on her left ring finger. So it's symbolizing, you know, what Lisa wants in this relationship, what's her, you know, goal. Yeah, her values.
Yeah, good answer. Nice and succinct.
Thanks.
Okay.
Shade.
3 points.
Shade.
Look, maybe. Nah.
What the hell?
All right. Symbol number 3.
Is this
Lisa's...
like the type? Ooh.
Do you want me to say it, or are you going to interrupt?
No. Sorry. So yeah, go.
So symbol number 3, Lisa's costuming.
Sean.
Yes.
Haha, Prue. Lisa's costuming, so isn't that like a symbolic of like her power as a woman and like her femininity? And also, I just want to have a quick sidebar. Her clothes are also representative of like her. You remember when she brings over her? This is very long and drawn out. She brings over her like silky
her nightgown or whatever.
Her night clothes or whatever. So I think that's also like a symbol of like, I don't even know, like a sexual relationship between Jeff and Lisa, because it obviously, like, the fact that it's, like, you know, all silky and sexy, and, like, it's a symbol of, like, the fact that she, like, plans to get busy that night, and then, like, that's no, just stay with me.
I'm giggly. I'm just giggling.
And then that's why Doyle, I think, questions it as well, Detective Doyle. So yes, it's all a symbol of, like, her, you know, sexual power and her femininity and her, all that. Say I'm right. Say it.
You are right. Prue, do you have anything you want to add though?
She's gone. Prue? Is she gone?
No.
Yeah.
I was just going to gone. I was going to say, a little side note. You know how when, like, Doyle says to Jeff, "Have you told the landlord who stays in your apartment?" And I'm like, why would he need to? So, like, what are those rules? I don't get it. You know?
Because I think it's a 1950s. Well, obviously it's a 1950s, Shan. The 1950s. God, I'm so loose tonight. I think it's, like, because obviously back in those days, if they are not married, they should not be sleeping in the same room. So I think genuinely those are rules.
Was that like a rule?
I don't think it's a law, but I think it's frowned upon.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Something else. You are. Something else I was also wanting to add.
Declare me the winner.
You only talked about one costume.
Oh, no,
I talked about two,
actually. There's more symbols just before we moved on to the next.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Sorry. There's, like, two more.
God damn it.
Also, I feel like her clothing or her costuming, is also symbolic of her change in character.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah,
that's what I would have said. Anyway.
Yes. Well, you did you, Prue?
Throw it at me, Em.
I'm sorry. This needs to end.
That's okay.
I love it.
All right. Symbol number 4. We've got 2 left, so it's anyone's game. Although, Sean we're on 3-1 so far. No,
it's
2-1.
Game. It's anyone's
2-1,
game.
sorry.
Although it's also Sean's game.
Sean, don't count your chicken.
I'm sorry.
No, I stuffed up and I gave Sean an extra point for some reason, but it's gone. It's 2-1. All right.
My God.
Yeah. Okay, everyone's probably getting really bored. If they're still with us.
They're not.
They checked out like half an hour ago, mate.
Yeah. They listened to the first minute.
Yeah.
And they were like, these guys again.
Hello to our Romanian listener. Thanks for joining us. Anyway, all right. So, symbol number 4, guys. Jeffrey's broken leg.
Prue. Are you talking about his cast or his broken leg?
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah, you can talk about either or both.
All right, I'm going to talk about his cast.
God.
Well, I'm going to talk about specifically what's on his cast, which is the epitaph. Epitaph? Is that right?
Epitaph?
And inscription, maybe? Isn't an epitaph what's on a grave?
Yeah, because it says here lies the broken bones.
Yeah.
So it's mimicking an epitaph. I don't know how to say it. Anyway.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, I'll give that to you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think that represents his really morbid kind of and dark sense of humor, and also his kind of I think he's really cynical and a really negative kind of person. He has a lot of negative kind of cynical views and distrustful views of the world. And obviously he's like, after 6 weeks of isolation, a lot of us can probably almost sympathize or empathize with Jeff of how kind of stir crazy you can go if you are locked in your house for 6 weeks. But I think he kind of resents what's happening to him because he's now immobilized. But he does, I think the epitaph represents his dark sense of humor or his morbid kind of curiosity.
Good answer. Sean, do you want to add anything?
I do. Obviously, I think it also represents, the fact that his independence is dead. I don't know. That was my reading of it. But yes. All good.
All right. Well, we're on 2-2, so this is it for the glory of.
This is a joke.
It's anyone's game.
Yep.
I hate
Okay.
you guys.
Symbol number 5, the final symbol of this segment.
Uh-huh.
The temperature.
Oh, Sean.
Chan, yes.
Yes. Okay, this was actually yes. This is something. This is
I'm
the
happy. Happy you got that.
Oh man, this was the first symbol that I actually this was the first symbol that I thought of when I thought about the film, which is really, really interesting because the very first thing I noticed was obviously, the temperature gauge is really, really high when we obviously are first introduced into the film, and then at the end, as it's panning away, it's obviously very low. So I think personally that the temperature gauge at the beginning and the end of the film, in its entirety, is symbolic of like the climbing action, the rising action, and then like the climax of the film, and then obviously the resolution of the film. I also think it's like very much like a high temperatures running high, tensions running high. So like. Obviously at the beginning of the film, your tensions are running extremely high because of everything that's happening. And then, obviously at the end of the film, everything sort of got its resolution. So that's how I sort of read it. That's, my idea of that symbol. I think, temperature running equals tensions running high. Like there's lots of tension in the air. And I think that's symbolized through the temperature. I don't know.
Yeah, no, great answer. Spot on.
Yay!
So with that,
declare me the winner.
Cool.
I was going to say, can I just add on to that real quickly? Because if people are here now, they're probably going to listen to the rest of it. It reminds me of 12 Angry Men. You know how the temperature gets
gosh.
Yes.
Love that movie. And
it's so
and like people become more disgruntled and more frustrated and more uncomfortable. So I feel like Hitchcock wants us, like, because it's really hot at the start and we can see the couple, sleeping out on the balcony, and I feel like he just wants to paint this like kind of like really like uncomfortable kind of feeling, or like initially straight away, because we all know how like gross you can feel and like just kind of a bit angry and a bit like when it's too hot and you just can't do anything, and like you can't get cool and like you can't relax and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, love it. All right, Emily, it's time for you to declare me the winner.
I declare Sean the winner.
Yeah! Hey, I won!
She's going to be talking about that for the next 6 weeks.
You're all welcome.
Yay. So glad we're back on site where we get to hear about it.
And you guys pretty much sit next to me. So yeah. Nice. Cool. Can I just say, I don't know, one more thing before I know this is a very long episode. Can I just say one more thing that I think is interesting about Alfred Hitchcock, the director, and what like he's kind of symbolized? Oh, Prue.
Look, I'll allow it.
So I did some further reading into Rear Window, obviously a couple of weeks ago now. But so did you guys know that Alfred Hitchcock always puts himself into the movies?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the little clock
guy.
He's the clock guy.
So the clock guy, right? That's an official term for it.
Yeah, the official term. No. I'm just thinking about this, in terms of maybe some students who are somehow still listening to us. So it's really interesting.
We could say whatever we wanted.
Yeah. That he's repairing this clock. And this could be something that they could put into their introductions, because obviously you can't really discuss this in your evidence or anything like that, because that's dumb. Oh, you kind of could with author's intention. Anyway, moving on. So I thought it was very interesting that he is repairing the clock, because I think that that's symbolic of the fact that, and this kind of goes into my point about, rising the curtains rising up, and who's rising the curtains? Like, Jeffries can't do that, then it must be Hitchcock. So I think with him talking about with him repairing the clock, he's basically saying like, I'm here, I'm controlling the time, the pace, I'm controlling the story, and he's basically, and then when you look back, because I couldn't remember this part of the film when I googled this. I rewatched part of the film, and then he's actually glaring at around the camera in our direction.
What? Real?
Yeah. I'm not joking. And this is like a challenge to us, for us, like when he's like glaring, when somebody's angrily glaring, around the camera, he's not staring directly into it. He's staring sort of around it. He's kind of saying, I always thought he was saying like, oh, you need to pay attention to me. You need to pay attention to this film and what this film is about and what I'm saying in this film. This is about, a man watching other people. And you might find this wrong or you might find this right, but what are you doing? Like, you've come to watch a film pretty much in the same way. And I just find that, like, really, really interesting. When I rewatched that scene, I was shook because I was like, holy shit. Like, I was like, he's almost looking at us.
I'm going to look up that scene on YouTube after we finish. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, sort of glaring angrily in our direction.
Kind of like in a Thorwald way.
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah, it's very interesting. Anyway, so that was my last thing because I thought that was quite symbolic as well. And students could discuss that in their introduction as well. To introduce, I think that would be a really interesting way to introduce the essay.
Shows like a good knowledge of the text from that.
Yeah.
And
then you could basically attribute all of your marks to us. This is the podcast. No, I'm just joking.
Just reference us, referencing other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch that video. It's crazy. When I watched it I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, no, it sounds it. Because I remember his cameo, but not like, not anything specific about it, just that he's in it.
Yep. No, it's so cool. Anyway, sorry, that's all I had to say.
Cool. Well, I guess that's it for This Is Lit.
That rhymed. Yep, you're a poet and you didn't even know it.
I feel like I'm really bad at ending these. So thanks for listening, guys, if you're still with us. Hopefully, you got something out of that. Hopefully if you are someone who is, doing an exam within the next couple of weeks, you are, feeling all good about that. And hopefully this has helped you feel a little bit more prepared. So good luck. Thanks again for listening. And we may see you again, we may speak to you again in the future.
Woo! Bye.
Yeah.
See you. Bye.
All right. Good luck, guys. Bye.
Good luck. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.